Yeah. And so today we're going to have some self-introduction and then a lecture by Martina entitled Nation Branding, a Theoretical Introduction to the Discipline. What is nation branding? And then we're going to have a break, teamwork session, and closing remarks and discussion for next week's plan. So since I'm already speaking, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Irit Shmuel, a faculty member in the Department of Politics and Communication and the School of Management at our college. And I look forward to engaging our enriching learning experience with you all. And maybe, Doron, you want to say some things until everyone else is coming?
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the international course in cooperation with our good friends and colleagues from Charles University. It is a pleasure and an honor to do this course with you and have this international exchange, both between the students and between the faculty. We have learned a lot from our friends, students, colleagues over the past years about the Czech Republic and about other cultures. It was a huge success, and I am sure that it will be also a success this year. I want to thank especially Dr. Anna Shavit, who has been incredibly helpful and kind in advancing this cooperation for several years now. I know it's not always easy to do a course like this in terms of logistics and registration and so on. So really, Anna, a big thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys developing good ties and friendships even, and learning from one another about the topics from the different perspectives that you will present. This course has a very strong element of peer learning. That is, much of the learning is conducted between the students from your knowledge. You don't need to be experts in your field, but you know many things that students from the other institution do not know. Obviously, we know a lot about Israel, and you know a lot about your countries. So through this exchange, much of the deliberation, much of the learning in this course takes place, and therefore it's very important to be online in the full sense of the meaning. I'm saying this obviously to everyone. To be online both on time, both with your cameras on, with your microphones in proper shape, and especially in the section that is dedicated for the work itself. I won't call it a workshop, but it's quite close to that in the working rooms. After those lectures by professors and experts in their fields, in each meeting, or the double meeting, you will have these rooms where you will engage with one another. So treat it, as it is. It's an essential part of the learning, and it has been very important in previous years, both for the learning and for the academic outputs of this course. So again, thank you very much for choosing this course, for Anna, and for all of you. I'm wishing a very best course possible.
Thank you, Doron. Anna?
Hi guys, welcome to the course. Greetings from Prague. It's actually not freezing anymore that much. It is very interesting, and I'm happy that this year we will be looking into a little bit new topic, and I will also ask Pavlina and Barbara to put the camera on like everybody else. One would think the peer pressure will work, but it doesn't. A lot has been said about the courses. I will get back to it. A couple of words about myself. I'm a political scientist, as I said, based in Prague. My research is focusing on the leadership, political marketing, polarization. So it has always been an interesting era for this research, but these days it's becoming a little bit too fast, like too much. It's impossible to keep the pace with the development. Sometimes it feels that the reality we live in is like a very silly scripted Marvel movie. But a little about me. The purpose of the course from the Czech part, it is to start a conversation. And we started with basically 3 years ago looking at Czechia and Israel as the two similar sized countries. The following year, the war happened in Ukraine and concurrently also in Israel. So we moved more to the war conflict. This year we might be a little bit too optimistic. And I mean, the syllabus was prepared before Mr. Trump joined the office. I know for Israelis, the European opinion of Trump will be a little bit different because we don't really like him for what he's saying about Ukraine and everything else. But we like him for what he's doing, maybe, perhaps to some extent in Middle East. But we want to focus on the post-war situation, which might be a little bit too hasty. But why is that? And also the nation branding. What does it mean? Like we have in the bunch, and I have, it saddens me, we don't have so many students of Charles University, but you know, they don't go to Israel this year. I can imagine next year it will be bigger audience if Jerusalem is the final destination of the trip. So I rechecked. So from the Czech side, it is 7 people now. Somebody left the course yesterday. But to make it a little bit more spicy this year, out of the 7, I think we have like 3 or 4 Czechs. Then we have Kadir of Turkey, he will tell you. Shimon is Polish. Then we will have a Slovak student. We will have a Ukrainian student. And the rest are the Czechs. But Czechia is also known for being in the center of Europe and being a very mixed country. But back to the topic. Martina is the hero of today who will have the lecture of nation branding. She will tell you more, but she's a PhD student with a very specific region, research also in some of your bordering countries. I'm talking about Israel. She's also interested in what is happening in Ukraine and specifically in nation branding. So she will explain the whole concept, and then you will also have some tasks. What I would like you to ask is, this is a very unique chance to talk to each other and to learn something. And even if you disagree with some policies, you can afford yourself to listen to the others and know a little bit more than people who just read the subtitles. I know it's a very tough time for many these days, but this should be fun and kind of entertainment. My role in this course will be now more in the debating part. And when the Israelis come to Prague, we will be meeting more often, and you will also have some lectures about the history, and we will see how we will prepare the program based also on your interest. But I think it's time for me to do the recount of the Charles University students. And by the way, the Charles University was founded in 1348. And it also changed a couple times the name, but the last change, I think, was 80 years ago. And before the war, it also used to be Ferdinand University, then this and that. But now it's the Charles are famous. And one of the last successful king we had, which was 800 years ago. So Czechs are sort of laid back in this. If you have any question to me, I mean, for the Israelis, my name might be surprising. My husband is Israeli born. He grew up in Denmark. So that's the name. His family was originally Stern, but they changed it to Shavit in Israel. kibbutzniks. So if you have any more questions, you can direct it to me. But now I think we will ask Martina for a couple of words, and then I'm very interested in each of you and also in our students, because I know Shimon and Kadir from sessions, so from another course, but I don't know everybody who is this year in the course. And thank you, Teresa and Barbara, for joining in.
Okay, hi everybody. It's very nice to see you at least like this. So my name is Martina. I am a PhD student at Charles University. I majored there in strategic communication and stayed for another 4 years. I specialize in nation branding, as was said. More in detail, I focus on how nation branding could be used as a tool in war reconstruction, even during the conflict, but also post-conflict reconstruction. Because, of course, as you probably know yourself, the image of a country that is in some sort of conflict is usually one of the worst in the world. And I will also show you some data that supports that. So that's why I think it would be beneficial if we find some ways and some tools how to combat that, even though that it's really, really hard. And yeah, I will talk about the nation branding today as like the whole concept. It will be very abstract today, so don't get scared too much, because the concept is not the easiest to explain, but I think in the future sessions you will get to understand it a bit more and what it means. And yeah, that's kind of it. I have some practical experience in the field, so I will also try to talk a bit from the practice perspective, but yeah, we'll see. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Martina. Welcome. Maybe Galia will say something about herself. Galia, she's going to join us in Prague.
Good morning. I'm Galia, and I'm the administrative coordinator in the Politics and Communication Department in the Jerusalem Multidisciplinary College. And I will be joining the student delegation to Prague together with Dr. Irit Shmuel. And I'm really looking forward to meet the staff and the students in Charles University and to learn and experience together in our joint international course. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Galia. So let's start with the introductions of the students. Who wants to start? Who will be the first brave one?
I'll start.
All right. Ofer.
I'm Ofer. I'm 34 years old from Jerusalem, and I don't know if you can see me. The light here is not that good. Anyway, I studies also in the politics and communication studies in what used to be Hadassah Academic College, and now it has much more longer name. I'm not sure how to say it in English. And anyway, I live here in Jerusalem. I have a nice dog, and I work as a IT support in an IT support department, also in our college. And I'm really excited to meet everyone here and start our journey.
Thank you so much, Ofer. So let's continue with the list that I see here. Shai.
My name is Shai. I'm also, we are all students in the politics and communication in the 3rd year. And what else? I also from Jerusalem. And I'm very excited to see what's gonna be in the course.
Thank you,
Thank
Shai.
you.
Omri.
Howdy, Dobry ven, right? That's how you say it in Czech, right? I'm Omri. I am also obviously a student from Jerusalem in the long name, something Jerusalem, multidisciplinary something. I live in Kfar Oya, which is a small town near Jerusalem, and I don't know. Looking forward, seems interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
I care about Ukraine and Czech and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, please continue. Sorry.
No, that's it, I think.
All right, thank you, Omri. Thank you so much. Aviv.
Hi, my name is Aviv. I'm 24 years old. I live in Jerusalem, in Israel, the capital. What else? I worked in the Prime Minister office. Right now, I'm working in the energy office with the spoken person, and that's it, I think.
Thank you, Aviv. Roy.
Hi, my name is Roy. I live in Tzur Adasa, which is a small village outside of Jerusalem as well. Like everybody here, I study political and communications. That's about it. I coach basketball. I'm very excited for the opportunity to get to meet you guys.
Thank you, Roy. Yael.
Hi, my name is Yael. As everyone else, I'm third year, major of politics and communication in our college. I just got married, so my last name got switched up a little bit. So if anyone got confused, it's my new last name. Also, I've changed places, so now I currently live in Lud, which is small town in the center of Israel. I am a journalist, you may say that, and also I am a social media manager for bars. Mostly, I work with alcohol, and also it's a kind of my thing to research and try to branding our country. I really believe in cultural diplomacy, so that's what I will be working here with you guys. So it's very nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Yael, and of course, congratulations for your marriage. Lidor.
Hello guys, nice to meet you. My name is Lidor, I'm 29 years old. I live in Jerusalem, actually in Ma'ale Adumim, it's a city near Jerusalem. I'm working at a student position in the Israeli Ministry of Communication, and I'm doing an internship in the Israeli Knesset with the Knesset member Boaz Bismuth, and I'm glad to meet you.
Thank you, Lidor. So interesting. Isvalem.
Hello, everybody. I'm Isvalem. Wait. The meaning of my name is the word of the people in Amharic. I'm 27 years old and I live in Jerusalem. And baking is my therapy. That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Rinat.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rinat, and I'm 27 years old. I live in Area, which is in the north, in Israel. I work at the defense office, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinat. Thank you so much. Shimon. We say Shimon in Hebrew, so it's Simon.
Perfectly, it's Szymon. This is how it is pronounced in Polish. Hi, I'm from Poland, but I study in Prague in Charles University in Prague. And I was looking for some interesting courses, and this one seemed the most interesting because it was quite extraordinary. So I'm glad being here. I study political science, so I have not so much in common with media studies as such, but I would love to learn something more.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Kadir.
This is Kadir. I'm from Turkey, but I currently live in Prague, studying Charles University, the field of media and area studies. The reason that I took the course is also it sounded really, really interesting that I wanted to learn more about it. Yeah, happy to join you.
Thank you, Kadir, and welcome. And Teresa.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm Teresa, nice to meet you. I'm a first-year master's student in political science. I focus mainly on Czech army and sports and politics, which is totally different from this course, but I'm really happy to be here, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and good luck. Barbara.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Barbara, and I'm actually from Slovakia, but I'm studying in Czech Republic at the Charles University, my master's degree at strategic communication. I studied before international relations, so I'm somewhere between these international relations studies and communication. So I'm just trying to find my way. And I'm working at the NGO with influencers, and we are trying to promote values and etc. So yeah, thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Emily, please.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm 24 years old. I live in more of the center of Israel in a small village. I work as a research assistant at a media research company, and I'm really excited to meet you all and be a part of this course.
Thank you, Emily. And last but not least, Or.
Hi everyone, I am Or. Also live in Jerusalem. I'm 25 years old, and I'm also very excited to meet you guys.
All right, so we covered all, right? Haven't we?
Yeah, we are missing 3 people.
We are
in
missing
the
3
Czech.
people.
Just to explain, well, anybody from the university could enroll, and we don't have a obligatory attendance, though I told everybody this would make sense. So this is a little bit different. Like the Israeli students, you are much more in touch with your supervisors. We are a little bit different, and also it's a master level, so the students are very free to do, but I send them all inquiry asking what is going on, if they're like, I don't know, hangover, or why would they not get up for 9:30. Let's give them a chance, maybe they confuse the time.
All right, great. So we'll continue as planned. Okay, so Martina, the stage is yours.
You probably have to give her rights to share or not. No.
I think I did. Yeah, I did.
I think I can share. Just
okay. So I just want to say to everyone, please take some notes from the notes from the lectures, this lecture and the other lectures that will come, and keep the cameras open. And after the lecture, we're gonna have a break, as I said before, and then we're gonna work in in group works. So I guess that this lecture would contribute to the group work. All right. So the stage is yours.
sorry, can you now see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
A lot of tabs open, sorry. So okay, let's start. So today I want to introduce you a bit to the concept of nation branding that I mean, it's a very complex and very complicated concept. And we still kind of like discuss whether this is how we want to call it in the academic sphere. But at the same time, it is, I think, for now, the best we can do and we have. And we will talk a bit more about it. But I more want to tell you why we want to practice nation branding or let's say any kind of reputation management of a country. So first I wanted you to ask if you can just use the emoji of the raised hand who never heard about nation branding ever, who doesn't know anything about the concept. I will just, okay, so everybody has at least some kind of knowledge about the concept. Okay, so maybe some of these some of the things that I will say will be just a reminder to those who heard about it. But let's just start by another question. Is there anybody who can describe what they see in the picture above on the screen?
It's Switzerland.
Yes.
The Alps, I
Yes.
guess. Okay, so yeah. So when you think about Switzerland, you think about the Alps.
Yes.
Classic associations.
Yeah.
That's the blending.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And a good chocolate too. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's obviously Swiss Alps, but why we can actually say it's Swiss Alps? Thanks to what?
To the flag.
Yes, exactly. So the flags are, let's say, a brand visual, one of the oldest brand visual that we have in the world. And they work quite well because they can help us to give us kind of associations and emotions with a place. Because without the flag, this would be just any kind of mountains, any Alps. You could say that it may be even ants. But we need some kind of emotions to create connections to places. And these connections then create the reputation and the image we have about the place. So this is what I want to talk a bit about today, because when I was thinking how I want to introduce this concept, that really the deeper I go, the more complicated it gets. I wanted to kind of explain that there is many different views on how we perceive nation branding, how we also practically approach nation branding. And I also wanted to kind of like explain I think the biggest challenge that there is, especially in the practice, that nation branding is not just about slapping a logo, updating a logo, updating slogan of a country, but it's more complex practice, and it needs to be connected to, let's say, the deeper structure of a state itself. And simply the logo and even the flag, even though that it's a strong brand visual, for example, with Switzerland, will not have the outcomes that we would like it to have. So this is kind of like the main message. But I also, since I really think that there are so many approaches to nation branding, I would like you, because of course I will share some views there are among academics, but I will also definitely share my view of nation branding. So I would like you to think critically, and maybe at the end you can let me know what is your view of the concept. So let's start. I will just show you the outline of today's presentation so you know what we will talk about. So we will, as I said, speak a bit about the origins and the definitions and also the criticism of the concept, which I think is very important. And we will also speak about the differences between the commercial branding and nation branding, because that is also important and is much connected to the war reconstruction and why maybe nation branding is not really working for countries affected by this sort of reputation damage. And we will also then speak about why nation branding, why we should use it. And we also will talk a bit about some nation branding indexes and some factors that are affecting the state's image. Please, if you have any questions during the presentation, just pop up. I don't think that I will be able to follow the raised hand, so maybe just open your mic and speak to me. Okay. So let's start with one of the key definitions by one of the most cited authors, Keith Dinney, that says that nation branding is the process of applying branding techniques to a country in order to manage its reputation and differentiate it from other nations. If I should pick some of the factors of this definition, I would stop by at the applying of branding techniques, because here Keith Dinney and I kind of go our separate ways in the way that we approach nation branding, because yes, the branding techniques could be beneficial if you know how to apply them, but at the same time, as I said, nation branding needs much wider approach to it. It needs to be connected to policymaking styles. It needs to be connected to the real actions, the innovations of a country. It needs to be connected to the reality of the state. So that's why here I would be kind of like on a fence of saying that just applying branding techniques would be working, but we can definitely agree on that it is a tool to manage a country's reputation if used correctly, of course. And that it would be beneficial if you want to differentiate your country from other nations that are maybe similar or worse, are maybe your competitors or enemies, right? So when we go back to the first picture, again, the Alps would be any Alps if there wasn't a flag and if we didn't know that it's Swiss Alps. And if maybe some of you can tell me what are your associations when you think about Swiss Alps? What emotions are you feeling or what words pop up?
Napoleon.
Sorry, Napoleon. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Any other?
Saint
It's a very
Moritz.
Yeah. Did somebody want to also speak? There was maybe.
Yeah, I just say it's a beautiful view, very wild nature,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
very calming.
Yes, that's great. So why I'm asking is that the emotions and associations that a place gives us are really important from the branding perspective of a thing. Because when you think from a marketing perspective, some of you said that you have some practical experience working in the communications. You know that in any kind of communication activity, in any kind of campaign, the thing, especially, for example, in political marketing, I would say, the thing that makes people to do some kind of desired action, that makes people, mobilized, that brings them to do something that you want, is usually the emotions, because the emotions are like one of the strongest things that can actually change people's behavior. And that's why we also would need to use it when we want to change country's reputation. And the bad thing is that the bad emotions sometimes are stronger, or usually are stronger. So the country's image usually changes much easier when there's some kind of negative emotions. And this is, again, connected to any kind of conflict, any kind of crisis that the country is connected to. But ideally, we would like to find a way how to get the good emotions there, and that in that way to change the country's reputation for the better. So let's move on. So, as said, as suggested, I approach nation branding a bit more as kind of like complex phenomenon that goes beyond the marketing and communication techniques, and as I said, should be much more connected to the top levels of the government, to the top levels of state decision-making processes. Because of course, if you do a decision, like for example, the Trump's administration are making decisions about how they want to approach Ukraine, this will definitely affect how we perceive USA and how we perceive Trump in the Europe, and definitely in the CEE, in the Central Eastern Europe. So being a nation branding expert, now it's utopia. We don't have it in the world, but being a nation branding expert, in my opinion, would mean sitting right next to the government and kind of like helping them to strategically decide what policies could change the reputation of a country for the better and which not. And this doesn't have to be just policies, but also any kind of innovations, actions, and stuff like that. So the multidisciplinary approach to nation branding, of course, this is not just my approach. This is many academics approach nation branding from this perspective, borrows from different political and other sciences, from different fields, from different practical experiences, and this is how they kind of create the mix on how to approach it. So for example, of course, cultural studies are extremely important, history, media studies, and PR, but also geopolitics and international studies. But then, of course, also the branding and marketing, because I think a good way to explain what I'm saying is, well, you can change for the better. You can have extremely amazing outcomes with your science, with your education. But if the world will not hear about it, the change in the perception will never come. So this is kind of like when the branding and the communications come to play, is when you already do all these changes for the better that can enhance your reputation. Now it's time to tell the world, and this is how you approach the branding strategy. So just a bit about the origins of the concept. I would say, if I approach nation branding from this very wide, multidisciplinary approach, then I would say that the nation branding is a new name for kind of like an old game, because the countries, the states, the governments were trying to influence the reputation for ages. Since the beginning of the times, you tried to have diplomats everywhere. You were trying to do some sort of cultural diplomacy in a way. You were trying to, at least by your neighbors, to be perceived the best way possible, because it would definitely influence your trade. It would definitely influence your diplomatic and international relations. And now in the modern times, where people are also traveling around the world, it will definitely also influence if people want to visit your country and spend your money, their money in your country. So in 1996, Simon Anholt actually used the word nation brand for the first time, but this was kind of like more to acknowledge that countries can behave like a brand and that they have some kind of equity, they have some kind of values, associations, like the commercial brand. Then from that, the nation branding developed, and that's when it kind of got complicated, because when you add these three letters at the end of the nation brand, it gets a bit tricky, because you get a lot of criticism for that, and we will speak about it a bit later. So this is also why Simon Anholt himself is one of the biggest skeptics and critics of the concept, even though that he is usually being told that he is the founding father of the concept, but he is kind of also on the fence, especially because he thinks that maybe branding, as like we know it from the commercial practice, is not enough and will not ever work. And it's kind of like utopia to think that by just rebranding a logo, you can change country's reputation. This, of course, doesn't work. But it developed to I would say now pretty extensive field of research and practice. And I think it by adding these layers to it, as for example the conflict research could help to kind of like set the stage for updated perception of nation branding. Also, what is important to say, that nation branding should ideally work inside and outside of the country. So it should not focus only on what people outside of your country think, because then if they come to your country and your citizens are saying, oh, this country is just horrible, it's like, don't come here, then probably it would not work. So you are also trying to persuade your own public to believe your nation branding strategy. So now let's speak a bit about the concept criticism, because I think when we, in any of the social science concept, when we dive a bit into the criticisms, it also helps us to first develop the field a bit better and with a bit more of a substance. And then, of course, it also helps us kind of understand the concept a bit better. So that's why I want to mention it here right from the beginning. And it is definitely important for the practice, because that's what we face a lot, that when you meet the diplomats, when you meet the politicians, you have to understand that when you speak about branding to them, they will not want to listen. They will not believe that there is something that you can do. They will definitely don't want to spend, public budgets on some logos and some slogans. So you have to really approach the criticism and try to explain the concept better, so it works. So as I said, one of the biggest criticism comes from the oversimplification and the narrowing down of the concept to the branding and marketing techniques. Of course, this is very problematic, because if you restrict your nation, your country, to just some slogans and some flashy moments, then of course this will probably not be not just accepted by the politicians, but also by your own citizens, because then, of course, if you're choosing some brand worth elements of a country, you often have to kind of like push away the reality or some of the aspects of the reality. And then it happens that some of the cultural aspects are not part of the branding, or some people, some minorities are not part of the branding because they're just not so flashy, so brand worthy. So that's why we, or at least I, would love for us if you approach any kind of branding activity, nation branding activity, to approach this more widely, because then you're not restricting yourself and restricting the nation to some flashy moments. Also, the oversimplification, as I said, will lead to rejection and would probably lead to not long-term effects. So I think you can gain like very short-term peaks and lows in the image, but you cannot really go with a long-term great strategy and therefore great results with that. Then, of course, another criticism comes from the fact that if you think about how nation branding could work in practice, and usually worked in the practice in the past, you would think that it cannot be in any way democratic, because you are kind of like not including the citizens in the process, the stakeholders in the process. It's just a group of branding and marketing professionals, maybe some politicians, who are deciding on behalf of the whole nations, usually unelected, of course, because it's some professionals that are coming to the field. So that is definitely criticism that the nation branding in the practice, both and in the research, is trying to combat and trying to come up with ways on how to approach nation branding from, let's say, more stakeholder inclusive approach. So they are trying to do a different participatory campaigns to include the citizens in the branding process. Or there is even some research that is trying to approach ways how nation branding professionals could be actually elected officials and stuff like that. And there is definitely a lot more criticism. I don't think that we have time to go over all of these that I mentioned here, but of course, definitely nation branding could have effect on sustainability of a country, because if you're trying to have the best possible outcome for your reputation, you might be maximalizing your resources as a state, for example, tourist resources, and happened to many countries in the past that are now just understanding what they've done to their brand, what kind of tourists they attracted, and how big volumes, and that they cannot really now work with these volumes, and are trying to change a strategy according to that, but might be already too late. Of course, globalization and other big issues, because you are kind of trying to portray your country so it fits to the global eye, to the Western eye also, which kind of takes some of the aspects of your culture, because you are, maybe this would not work with the Western audience. So you are kind of like trying to create more globalized view of your nation, and that is also maybe not the best approach, I would say, but of course will be different opinions on this. Now I also want to help you a bit, maybe if you are focusing on nation branding in your research thesis. I had to learn this really hard way in the past few years, so I'm trying to just tell you that public diplomacy, soft power, destination branding is not the same as nation branding. Nation branding should be kind of like the roof of all these concepts, and should be the most broad and the most, let's say, the widest or most multidisciplinary concept of these two. Also, of course, soft power would be kind of like on the same level of that. And then what are the same names is the place branding, nation branding, and competitive identity that Anholt tried to introduce instead of the branding word. But of course, because branding, place branding, nation branding is much more catchy term, it never really worked. But if you are researching any papers, know that these three words could also be titled with these papers. So yeah. So now I would like to combat the biggest criticism here and kind of like also the biggest confusion and issue with the concept, talking about what is the difference between the commercial branding and the nation branding. So yeah, so sorry, I kind of confused the slides. Yeah. So so those of you who are kind of familiar with the political marketing theory, you probably heard about something called professionalization of the public sphere. Maybe Anna will help me with the right definition, but let's say that just the fact that marketing and PR professionals entered the political sphere, the sphere of public institutions, the governments, they kind of changed how we approach these fields and how the practice in the fields change. And the same kind of happens to the reputations of a country and the management of country's reputation. And that is why branding is, in a sense, a good word, because yes, it happened that marketing and PR practitioners entered the sphere, but why it's also a bit tricky. And so let's now talk about the difference between the products, right? So what is a brand? Brand represents a unique combination of characteristics and added values, both functional and non-functional, which have taken on a relevant meaning that is inextricably linked to the brand, awareness of which might be conscious or unconscious, and now or intuitive. And now when you look at this definition of a brand, you can kind of see that it can be applicable to both countries, nation brands, and brands. Because of course, when you, as I said, when you have a nation brand, you definitely have some values, you have some meanings. You also can know a bit about that you have some, for example, biases to a nation brand, or you don't have to know about them, and they can be kind of like subconscious. But both of these products, let's say, call them products, the commercial brand and the nation brand are influenced by different factors. They are also built in a different way. They are established in a different way, and that's why they also need to be managed differently. So, for example, when we look at the two brands that I have here, we already know that there will be definitely some different factors playing, in their favor or against them. But we will also know that their reputation will be influenced in different way, and that they probably have also different goals, right? So, does anybody want to give their definition what a state is or what a nation is?
A political entity that is meant to represent a group of people. Something along those lines, I believe.
Yes, perfect. Anybody else want to add theirs? So yeah, definitely this could be a very long debate in a political science course, and we could all flesh our different definitions. But what I want to say here is that, a commercial product, the brand that we showed before, is definitely influenced by some external factors. When we think about the price, when we think about the competitors, when we think about how it looks visually, when we think about the consumer preference, and many other factors. But I would say that these factors we can at least somehow control in the process. We can control them with the branding and communication, of course, but also in the process of distribution. In the factories, we can kind of influence the process how we manufacture these products. But when it comes to the nation or a state, when we think about it, the product that wants to be branded, the external factors that are playing the role here are much wider. Does anybody want to say some of the factors that are affecting the reputation of a state or a country that comes to your mind?
I would say the media, like for example, Israeli case, like how the CNN and Sky News and all the international media is covering us, like the media, international media channels, what they covering us, and for years they're covering us like very negative way. So our branding is very bad.
Yeah. Also
Around the
social media, not just the traditional media, right? Because
and to add to this, also the social media as well. But I think first and what came before was them.
Yeah. Any other factors?
Probably natural tourism resources, like Greece, for example, probably has a better nation branding base compared to, say, I don't know, Germany, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the landscapes for sure. Some other.
So in social media, there are lots of fake news, which is really it's all the time in Israel. We feel it in the social media all the time, when also countries are publishing fake news, and it's really affecting the way that other countries sees us and citizens of other countries sees us.
Definitely, yeah.
We can also add to Shai's point, just generally a population size, because if you have a larger population and internet access, you probably have a better amount of ability to generate conversation from your people. Like America is like a very large nation who mostly speak English, so they can massively affect conversations about other countries as well, while Israel, for example, can't for the same level.
No, for sure. Yeah. So the factors that are affecting states' reputation they are never ending, right? Because it can be anything from weather, anything from religion, anything from stereotypes that are said about your country, region, also just the region that where you are part of a region, probably Israel knows, like is affecting your reputation. Geography, as we said, political climate, your inner political climate, but also international political climate, as we see now, for example, with Ukraine. Also the pandemic. We had one, but there can be more in the future. Conflicts, I want to stress here in this course again. History, very important one. The one that is actually, as you said, being the source of many misconceptions and many fake news. And also citizens, for example. Your most prominent citizens, from celebrities, politicians, but also, of course, your daily citizens that are part of your country. And there could be many more factors that we could talk about. So this is why I want to stress that it's so complicated to manage country's reputation, because there is so many factors that are coming to your way, and these factors you can minimally influence. There is very minimal influence you have over these. So now that we kind of understand the difference between the two products, let's say, let's talk a bit about the differences between the practices. So when we speak about the commercial branding, we know that it's long-term strategic process. You can use a strategy, you can use communication, you can use many different tools, many, let's say, media tools to help your branding process. And it helps to achieve the strategic goals of the company. And now we can speak what goals can
commercial company have? Does anybody want to mention some?
You want to sell.
Yes, exactly. Profit. Profit is the main driving force of usually the branding. You want to stand out against your competitors, and you want people to buy you more, of course. And how you can achieve this, maximizing your profit and standing out.
When you create a unique brand or attractive brand and make people think that this product will help them or it's a good product or whatever.
Yeah, again, like definitely some substance of the product, if the product is better than the others, definitely could play a part. But the branding, the communication of your product is definitely the thing that sells, especially now when we live in the, in our society with the social media, with the influencers. These things play a huge role. Now, when we move to the nation branding, it is also long-term strategic process, and I really want to stress the long-term strategic process here, because when you think about the image of a country, you cannot change it in a day. You cannot change it in the weeks, and you cannot change it in months. Short term, yes, you can make some peaks again and lows with your reputation, but you cannot fully change the country's reputation in a few months. So you need really long-term strategic process, but you also want to achieve your goals. But what could be the goal of a country?
Well, it's very varied, and it could be a political strategic goal that the country want to achieve with national branding, and also just, I don't know, bring more tourists to the country and make the economy to prosper. So help the economy prosper.
Yeah. Any else? Any different goals that the country might have?
Attract stereotype.
Sorry.
And attract people and develop the economy or tourists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's much more complicated with the commercial products because country can have many goals. It definitely has economic goals. Profit, again, could be one of the goals, but it is not the only one. There would be political goals that could be even territorial goals. There could be even, as you said, attracting some investments, tourists, but also maybe handling your own political crisis within your state. Many goals again. So managing these or achieving these goals again is a bit more complicated and complex than with the branding. And that's why Simon Anholt kind of proposes that to change a country's reputation via nation branding, you would need 80% of innovation, 15% of coordination of the public and private sector and all the stakeholders, and basically everybody in your country, and just 5% is a communication. So now that when we go back to the branding, to the commercial branding, you can see the difference because we actually can kind of agree that the good branding with a commercial product can really help you and can really boost your sales and boost your profits. With the country, you kind of have to have like a wider strategic exercise that again goes deep into the state itself and to the government itself, and you need kind of like a clear strategy, of course, but also you would need a visionary leadership that kind of knows where to push your country, or you would have to have the nation branding experts kind of like advising a bit, and you would also need to have a great coordination. So this is again why the nation branding should ideally operate at the highest structures of the government to kind of like help and advise the same way that you would advise to a politician with a political campaign, that you could advise a state or a government how to kind of like move around with the different policies, what policies could possibly, for example, working in changing your perception. For example, if you think about Saudi Arabia and what they done in the past few years, what reforms they done, like the women driving, obtaining passports, traveling without, male companion,
these are very small reforms when you think about the role of women in the country, but they have a huge branding impact, a huge PR impact. And you could see it back in the 2016 when women were first enabled to drive. You could see that the PR coverage of this was enormous, and you would not be able to get it with a change of a logo or with a new slogan, with something so, you know, communication based. You would always need to get it from something more substantial, you know, if you understand what I'm speaking about.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Be aware about the country that there was part of the Soviet Union, that they brand themselves as a democrat country, and they develop a new value of human rights, human all the kind things that they attract people from the West. And I remember that we learned about that, about the branding, the national branding. So
yeah, I don't really recall this example, but it's definitely interesting one. And I think like going back to the Cold War is kind of like when we can see the first modern examples of nation branding, really, especially when you look at the biggest parts of the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union. Of course, there was also the hard power in play for the big part, but it was also the soft power and nation branding, or we call it soft power back in the time. But now when we look at it from the nation branding approach, we can see some tools being used that could be kind of like aligned with the nation branding concept. Yeah, great analogy.
If I may jump in.
Yeah.
This is a super interesting observation, Rinat. But if I will use example, for instance, of Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, or some other countries, which we were part not exactly of the Soviet Union, but of something they like to call the satellites. They would like to get hold of us. It was not that we embraced, I mean, if I will talk about the Czech Republic, or back then Czechoslovakia, that we embraced the concept of human rights or the values. It was more like we were coming back to it, because the whole state, you will hear a lot about it once you come to Prague. The so-called the First Republic, the Czechoslovakia, for instance, we had the first constitution in 1920. The women had the right to vote in 1920. So communism was very disruptive, totalitarian regime which was exposed on us. But many countries who live under totalitarian regimes, they had something to come back. It was not that they wanted the best to like them. It was more to do something what we had before. But it depends. It varies from country to country. What you're saying is basically a dream. All the Western powers, they had it. You know, they had it with the Middle East. They had it with many post-Soviet countries. This idea that when there is a freedom, people will live the way how we want to live with the human rights, etc., etc. But if you look at some of your neighboring countries, it doesn't really work like that. Like, it's not the first thing people do, that they embrace the human rights and stuff, sadly.
Yeah, thank you very much for adding your remarks. That's great. So let's now just quickly move to the why. That is very important, I think. So as I said, it is extremely challenging, and some even say it is essentially not possible to change country's reputation in the long term. And it's definitely a very long process to change a country's reputation. Here, I think it is possible, and it is possible with a good strategic approach that goes deep in the whole state existence and goes to coordinate all the structures of the state, which definitely is extremely challenging, and it is extremely hard to get everybody on board. You will not definitely get everybody on board, but the majority on board with your strategy. But I still think that it is important to try and attempt to change reputation, because the reputation is affecting all of our being as a country. It will change how you perform economically, and it will change how you perform, in the international relations. It will also change, and I think maybe some of you experienced it firsthand, how people approach you, how people behave towards you, and the reputation of a country is very much connected to how you as a person feel when you travel abroad. If people know your country, and if they know it positively, and that is a thing that you definitely will face. For example, Americans, since they first elected Donald Trump, were kind of like, there are researches on how they felt traveling abroad because their reputation went down, and people in Europe, for example, were not as excited as before if they were meeting American, and they were not happy, of course, with this result. So it is very important, and it affects all of us in our everyday life. What is also important to mention, as I said, that no state, no nation, and no country, no region, no place in the world is not already being branded. And you want to be first to brand it. You don't want your competitors, or even worse, your enemies, the outsiders, to brand you, to define you, to say stuff about you, to share their narratives about you. You want always to be your narratives, and we all know it, to be heard the loudest, and not, because when you let the outsider speak about you, the least that it can have as an outcome is that there will be stereotypes said about you. The worst is that there will be disinformation, there will be very bad narratives shared about you and making you, for example, the evil. So brand before you get branded. That is why I think it's very important. Also, as I said, nation branding can help achieve countries' various strategic goals, and helps also to differentiate the countries from one another. And as I said, it is, I think, the widest concept we have right now that can really manage all segments of a nation and country's reputation. That's why I also think it's very beneficial. And one not so practical, but I would say academic one, is that learning more about nation branding and state reputation management, let's say, will help you to kind of understand our world from a different perspective. Maybe some of the geopolitical struggles, maybe some of the decisions of a country's leaders could be already understood better. As I said, the case of Saudi Arabia is something very interesting to look at when you think about, the strategic reputation management of a country, and how much they push the perception of their country in front of all their decision and all the actions that they are taking. So something just interesting to think about. Now, I just want to show you how wide the nation branding actually is via this Anholt's nation branding hexagon that is also being used in his index that I will show you in a bit. To show you, these are all the segments that influence country's reputation. Of course, its governance is how we perceive the country to behave in the governance and policy sphere. There are researches showing that if we perceive a country to be acting in a good way when it comes to international politics, we perceive it in a better way. That is also showed in Anholt's Good Country Index that I will also show you. Then, of course, exports. So how we like the quality of the products. If you think about car from Germany, if you think about a bag, a leather bag from Italy, if you then think about t-shirts from China, what kind of associations these all have, this definitely affects our reputation. If our products, our exports are seemed perfectly, high quality, then we have some kind of leverage in our reputation. Then, of course, tourism. Tourism is extremely important because it's your first-hand experience with the place. If you visit the place, and the locals are nice to you, you have great food, you see beautiful sights, you see beautiful landscapes, of course you will think about the country positively. If you go to a country and you have very negative experience, of course you will perceive the country negatively, right? And the people of the country negatively. Then we have investment and immigration. This is more about, do I want to invest in the country? Do I want to study there? Do I want to work there? Would I like to work with the people from the country? Would I like to conduct the business with the people from the country? Also very important. Then hugely important, as I said, culture and heritage. How do I perceive the culture? Is the culture too foreign to me? And maybe even I would see the culture as barbaric or something like completely foreign to me, and I cannot really relate with the culture. That will affect the reputation of the country in my eyes very negatively. The same comes with the cultures that are similar to my culture. Then I will probably have a better perception of the country because I will understand the country a bit more. And then, of course, as I said, people. And it has, I think, a huge role in the whole mix. How do I perceive the people from the country? Do I know any famous people from the country, and how do I perceive them? Do I know the politicians of the country, and how do I perceive them, and how do I perceive their policies? And then it goes back to the governance, and we go the full circle again. So this is, I think, it. So I just want to, because I know there has been a lot of information, so I just want to ask you, does anybody want to share what were their key takeaways from this class? What do you remember? What will you take and think about it more when you're doing some kind of research or just thinking about world?
I just really like the approach of brand yourself before someone brands you.
Yeah, yeah. For the countries in some kind of open conflict, this is one of the, I think, the most painful realization that you are already being branded, and you are being branded by somebody who doesn't want any good for you. Yeah.
Also, to distinguish nation branding from public diplomacy.
Yeah.
You split it because it's not the same.
Yeah.
And usually it get mixed, and
it's definitely not the same. It definitely should work hand in hand, for sure. And I would also say, because in the past there were different approaches that were trying to connect these and kind of say like, okay, so diplomacy is kind of like below nation branding and nation branding is above, or the other way around. I would avoid that. I would just say that these two need to exist, needs to be in place, and need to work together, and the strategy need to be aligned.
Yeah.
I would say if you have a good nation branding strategy, it will help to boost your public diplomacy strategy and your cultural diplomacy strategy. But you can also go from soft power strategy and then connect all of these. Depends on the approach, but definitely they are a bit different. And I know that in subsequent classes there will be somebody who will be talking more about the public diplomacy. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can add something, it's very interesting. First of all, thank you so much, Martina, for your very interesting lecture. I just realized that one of the outcomes of this national branding is the geographical imagination and touristical imagination, which is a field that I'm investigating very intensively during the last years. So I can share with you my articles about it. So the way that people conceive places and understand places is based on whatever they whatever they consume. They consume the media, they consume, I don't know, talking with friends and books from high school or everything. So yeah, everything connects.
Yeah, everything connects for sure. And we can see how tourism is being, when you now look at some countries that are trying to enhance their reputation, usually the tourism is the first thing that they are trying to implement in a way. There has been 9,000 tourists last year in Afghanistan, and it has been like 300% increase of the foreign tourists, and they were not just from the countries around Afghanistan, but they were from the West. And this is really important. And you could see how Assad regime was trying to open up for tourists, and we will see what's going to happen with that now. But definitely tourism is something to consider. What I would also like to stress here, that sometimes the countries focus on the tourism branding too much, and that is kind of then restricts their perception and their image to a tourism hub, which I think nation branding should kind of again stay above that and try to shield the whole perception of a country. Because when you think, for example, about Croatia, they managed first their conflict reconstruction really well thanks to their tourism, but now they are really finding out that their reputation is restricted just to the tourism, and the over tourism comes with that.
Yeah.
And it's so definitely important component, but I would say just one of the components of the image of a country. So I put some key takeaways from my side here at the end of the presentation. I can send you the presentation. You can have them just here. This is all what I have just said, so I don't have to remind you, but just in the future, if you would like to look again at the presentation, you will have it here. And I don't know, Anna, if we want to take a break now, because then we have the questions and I will show the indexes so we can go with the questions. Let me know. I think you are muted.
The classic mistake. We can also do a very quick quiz before break. Like just think in your head, like everybody, like 3 things you know about Czechia for the non-Czechs, and the other 3 things you know about Israel. And to make it a little bit more interesting, for Czechia, no beer, no hockey, no Prague. We are completely destroyed. And for Israel, something pre-October 2022. But you can also think about Turkey. You can also add something into the mixture about Slovakia. You can also add something about Poland. I mean, Warsaw has really changed so much in 20 years. Poland is becoming like business. Warsaw is like a business capital these days. Anybody would like to go with 3 things?
Do you know anything about Czech Republic? The Israeli guys.
Or maybe you figured out something.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can go. President Peter Pavel has been pushing some really good security policies in the topic of Ukraine. They have had some interesting, they have a history of helping, I've seen a good joke about this, history of helping countries with apocalyptic wars, such as Israel with 1948. The Czech Republic has, to my understanding, a constitutional right to bear arms.
We can have knives, unlike the rest of EU. I don't know how is it with the arms. It's not like America.
Yeah, I understand that it's less, but like I read a while ago that there was a constitutional amendment to add like a second amendment type thing, but I don't know how effective or whatever it is. I don't know, that's it.
That's not bad. But Peter Pavel also what might be similar to Israelis, and it's since communism this is the first time he's a former general, which normally never happens here. Okay, guys, what about Poland? Anybody knows anything about Poland? Silence. Okay, so our participants from Charles, what do you know about Israel?
We have camels.
What do you have?
We have camels. You can come.
Okay, but I think Barbara was being a brave one.
Yeah, I just want to say it's maybe not about the Israel as such, because yeah, we know all the like basic cultural things. But for example, what is interesting, maybe the connection is that I don't know how to explain it, but at diplomacy you have this like diverse structures, like for example, general consulate, etc., etc., and then you have this cultural thing. And for us, for Slovakia, we have some like in countries that are close to us, like Czechia, Poland, etc., and we have some in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. I'm not sure now. And it's really interesting that it's like it's in cities very important for us, and we have this. It's called Cultural Institute, I think, in Israel. So maybe just a fun fact, not a fact about Israel, but a fun fact.
But Barbara, do you know the Tel Avivian from Bratislava? That's an Instagram account of a Slovak woman who lives in Israel for many years, married to an Israeli guy, and she's doing a lot of, you can say, PR, public cultural diplomacy for Israel by reporting what is happening on the ground. He's very often targeted by some other guys. So what about Turkey? Everybody, also the Czech, Slovaks, Poles, Israelis, what do you know of Turkey?
They have a great food.
You are very Israeli friendly. You're very popular among tourists, and also your economy is very stable. That I know.
But what about this is, you see, there's a big difference always on the human level and on the political level. Because I would not, if Kadir might correct me, but I would not say that the latest statements of the President Erdogan were pro-Israeli.
True.
Saying it very mildly.
But it
So,
wasn't used to be that way till like 2013.
an interesting fact for all of you, bright, nice people, you don't get better when you age. Sometimes, but not always. So be careful with this. Definitely Erdogan is having some aging troubles. What else?
Can I comment about Turkey? So
Yes, please.
my PhD was about the Israeli touristical imagination about Turkey before and after the Marmara flotilla in 2010. So before it was heaven, it was the best place on earth. They were the kindest people, the beautiful, really one of the most pleasant place to go. And after the Marmara flotilla event or accident, it shifted very hard, and now it goes very down. So before there were around 500,000 of Israelis coming to the country, and after it went down to 70,000. So the perception is totally different before and after. And that's what is happening when you have a crisis, a kind of political crisis between countries. There's a big shift in the way that people understand places, because they are very there's a big influence of the media on the way that people understand places.
Yeah. Details about any country? Okay, maybe you will feel more comfortable talking together than with us, but there is a lot of still interesting things you will learn about the countries. The Czechia is roughly 10.5 million people. our numbers increased, not due to having more kids. I think we have 1.1 kid, which is a very strange calculation now every year, like per family. But due to the refugees from Ukraine, so we are not currently exposed to any armed conflict per se, but we have a lot of Ukrainian refugees. Hopefully, our Ukrainian colleague will join later on next week. We will see. I don't know with the current events in the world what will happen in 2 months when you come to Prague, but I don't think that much will happen. But it's still a pretty cozy place to live. There is more to us than just, as I said before, beer and other things. I don't know, but this is maybe for Kadir and Shimon to comment on since they are not Czechs. As for Barbara, Slovakia and Czechoslovakia used to be one state till 1993, January 1st. The hangover was very big, so you had 2 states. Since then, we have very special relationship, like the Slovaks can study in Czechia as the Czechs and vice versa. So this is still considered like we don't really see the difference, but it's a different language the Slovak speaks and Czech. It's a different history. And it used to be a very interesting union, which is not existing anymore. But I guess you can also ask Barbara everything about Czechia or about Slovakia, and she will knows. Teresa, her interests are very unusual. Not so many young Czechs are interested in army. It's not like in Israel. We don't have the service. We have a so-called professional, very small army. It is not obligatory to do army service. I don't know how is it in Turkey. Do you have to do service?
Yeah, for instance, I've already done it.
You see, so this is very unusual. In Poland, it's the same, right? Professional army, Shimon.
Right, only professional.
There's a debate about maybe it's time to change it to something, but this is a very explosive issue. So we are very cozy here in EU. But with this, it's 11, it's 12 in Israel. I think it's time for coffee. So we will see you all in 20 minutes. Martina had actually cool questions for you to debate in the teams. So please come back in 20 minutes, if I may, or Irit, Doron, Galia, or Martina, if you would like to say something more. No, we need to rearrange the groups, I think, by the people who participate today, right? Yeah. But, we can do it after break. Yeah, after the break. Yeah, of course. Okay. Nice to see you soon. Okay, stay tuned.
I'm sorry, do we meet at the same link, right?
Yeah. It stays open.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Your camera and audio.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm recording. Hello, everyone. Is everyone here? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right. So thank you, everyone. I hope that you had very fruitful discussions. And Martina.
Yeah. So does anybody want to tell us what they come up with in the first question? How did you talk about the rankings and what did you come up with? Maybe some solutions also to these.
I think that we came up with solution, but we did understood our country better. I mean, I was with Kadir in the group, and I kind of get to know Turkey a little bit better, and we had the chance to tell him what we think about their country, but that was most of the conversation.
Oh, that's nice. That's beneficial for sure. Was somebody surprised by the ranking of their country in the indexes? In a good way or bad way? Or was it just like, yeah, that's how it is?
I was surprised in some sense, but it was understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, in an objective perspective, it's just it is what it is.
Yeah. So if we move to the stereotypes, does anybody want to talk about some that were discussed in your groups?
I heard a lot of interesting stuff, so please share with us.
We spoke about the stereotypes that Roy mentioned about the camels and the deserts, that Israeli is all just known for this stuff and not other stuff also.
Yeah.
About the hummus. We talked about the hummus. We talked about the, you mentioned it about the fact that Czech people, they really like to drink and how it changes between country and country, and a little bit about like the warmth and hospitality of Czech people, like as opposed to Italians, for example. That's something that was mentioned.
Okay, interesting. Something maybe about how the people from the countries that are represented here are, how the people from the countries are.
Yeah, I said that we Czechs are not really like open-minded. We tend to be like close, like, into ourselves. For the first time when we meet someone, we don't tend to talk to the people. We are just like observing and like looking at them, if how they are like, talking to each other and everything. So we tend to be more distant, and it takes us like longer time to be more like friendly. I'd say that's typical for us. But on the other hand, if you go to bar or pub, there's a different checks. I don't know. We have like two, like I would say like we are bipolar at this point. Like, you go to bar, you are like totally different person than on the street.
As I mentioned, that there is huge community of Vietnams in Czech Republic, and it's for me it's new. I didn't know.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting, and I think especially in smaller cities outside of Prague, they are a huge part of the young communities. For example, when I was growing up, most of my friends were Vietnamese, so this is definitely interesting how these two culture influences each other. That's definitely interesting thing to know about. Know about us. Yeah. Any other stereotypes? Did Polish maybe Polish stereotypes come up? I don't know.
I have a stereotype about the Polish.
Do we still have
we discussed the Polish stereotypes that Poland is framed somewhat as anti-Semitic, both due to certain politicians like the monarchist party, and also we didn't discuss it, but obviously because of the history of Poland, we framed it. We talked about a potential reframing of history of humanitarianism, occupied country, and all that.
Yeah, perfect. So the last thing was, are there any narratives that are currently being used that you find useful, or would you propose some other narratives to tell the world about your country? What would they be? Something that you think the world should know about you that could help your branding.
We spoke about the stereotype that Israeli, for example, that Israel is an apartheid country, and what we suggested that for a key to change it is to show how it really is, that there are a lot of Arab people that are in really high positions, such as parliament members and doctors and physicians and many lawyers, and like you can find mixed people, Arab and Jews, in many positions in Israel. So I think just sometimes you need to show how it really is. That's the simple way
Yeah,
to break the
but
stereotype.
sometimes it's the harder way in the communication practice, I think, to persuade people about some positive actions of a country is harder than to persuade people about some negative actions in the country. I think maybe Anna can back me on that because it's the same, I think, in the political marketing. Saying the negative stuff about somebody kind of spreads better and faster than saying something positive, right?
Yeah, this is very interesting with Israel because when I ask you what do you know of Czechia or other countries, either you were polite or a lot of the knowledge goes, of course, to the Second World War and this and that. But you might not have opinion about the country itself. But when you ask people if they have opinion about Israel, they do. And there's a lot of reasons. And we might cover it also in one lecture in Prague by Irena Kalhosova, our colleague. And this is, first of all, the creation of Israel, Shoah, and other things which contributed to at least that Europeans feel somehow either close or obliged or that they should have opinion. Then there is America and then there is Arab world. So the reasons are different, but people do pay attention. What is interesting that Israelis maybe not so much pay attention about Europe unless you have the roots there and this and that. So there was one thing how for instance, the Czech-Israeli relations was described as asymmetric. The Czechia is very much invested. We show all our support. We are very interested, like politically. Clearly, for Israel, USA is much more important as a partner than countries like Czechia, hence our size and EU, etc., etc. But we will also get to this. Part of making your brand is also show interest in others, and it's understandable that that's not happening. But I mean, I'm coming from a small country, and this is usually the problem of small countries that we tend to overanalyze what's happening in us. If you ask every single person in Czechia to give you a list of 20 worst qualities of Czechs, they will just sit down, smile, and they will give you 50. If you ask 5 great things about Czechs, we will start to be like, I don't know, da-da-da. So let's also focus on about the good things about us and new things, but it is not bad sometimes to read some news from other countries too, to see some similarities. This is why I hope that our Ukrainian colleague will join us, because we also want to get to this, like the motivation for today was basically also to share how is it to live in the country, which is, okay, there's a ceasefire now, but which was months ago involved in 2 war conflicts. And Ukraine is still fighting in spite of whatever is happening. And yet the country is functioning normally. You still have to pay bills, you still have to pay mortgage, you still have to do your obligation and stuff. Which is very strange reality. And sorry, I got lost in the too many words. I don't know what Martina really want me to say, so I will stop.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up. Maybe just one more remark that I found interesting. I just recently read a paper from Simon Anholt, and he said like the fact that we are just trying to differentiate our country all the time from every other similar country might not work the best for some countries, especially the small countries like the 2 countries of ours are. But sometimes maybe the best nation branding strategy would be to cooperate. So maybe that's a good message for this course, to find ways how we can cooperate, and that will maybe enhance our mutual reputation in the future. So that's just interesting message, I think.
Okay, thank you so much, Martina. Thank you so much for your very interesting lecture and also for, managing all the session today. So I'm really appreciate it for that. Does anyone want to say something? All right. So I have just I need the Israeli students for 1 minute after everyone is going to leave the session. So thank you so much for everyone. Anna, do you want to say anything?
Guys, it's very nice meeting you and see you next week. We hope we will increase our numbers. That's for all the students. We will have this 1 week in Prague. So think about what you would like to hear, see. Whenever you find something interesting, make a note. And I'm sending you something you would not even expect it exists. But we have some news about Czechia in English. You might find also something about Israel, because Israel is very much covered in the Czech media. And you can still say the Czech media are very pro-Israeli. So but that's it. So with this, I wish you a nice weekend and Shabbat Shalom. That's it.
Thank you so much, Anna. So we will say goodbye to the Czech group and the Shabbat Shalom, and the Israeli group will stay with me for 1 more minute. Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure meeting.